Joining me in the studio is Brittany Packett, activist, educator, writer, and co-host of Pod Save the People. We are in for a treat. Brittany, welcome to the studio. It's so good to have you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm glad to be here.
It's so good to have you. So I have to say, I am so excited to finally sit down with you. I did a
Likewise.
cartwheel out of bed this morning. I was like, I finally get to meet her because I, like you, find myself to be confidence obsessed.
Yes.
I love your message around it's not a nice to have, it's a need to have. And I'd love for us to talk a little bit about the confidence conversation and a lot
Yeah.
of your messages and experience.
Yeah.
So I want to start by talking about confidence in a place that we spend most of our time in, which is work. So confidence plays an important role in the workplace, and I'd love your take on how confidence can show up for us individually in the workplace,
Yeah.
how we can own it, and then how we can create environments that really inspire it.
No, I love that question because you're right. Confidence is absolutely a must have. Imagine leading a team of brilliant folks who aren't confident enough to give you their best ideas.
Yeah.
When that happens, we all lose, right? So we have to recognize this isn't a soft skill, it's not a nice to have, as I said in that tech talk. It is absolutely a must have. We all win when everybody is free to be themselves, can show up as their best selves, and can give us the best that they've got all the time, every single day. So what that looks like for us individually is making sure that we've got the kind of community around us that can help us fail in safety and then can help us get better as we need to, that can help us really develop our skill and encourage us as we continue on our journey, that we've got managers and peers who are curious about us, right? Who don't hold our failures up to us as a mirror every single time we mess up, but really ask questions, right? And help us return to what our intentions are, what our goals are, and help us develop the skills to get there. And then we need to make sure that we are giving ourselves permission every single day to show up as our best selves. That can be particularly difficult when you are a person of color or a woman or you have a marginalized identity. But even with all of that, we know that 70% of Americans say that they have experienced imposter syndrome at some point in their life or career. So really, confidence is a crisis for everyone at some point along the journey. So to your point, we have to make sure that not only are we paying attention to our own confidence, but that we're building strong environments where everyone can be confident around us.
I love that. And it's funny that you bring up the imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
I completely get that. This is my first time in the live stream studio space, so I was walking into it with a little bit of that. When
Yeah.
was the last time you did something new where you felt like you had to check your confidence a little bit and really make sure you were bringing it to the table versus sinking back?
Well, you're doing a great job.
Thank you so much. Real-time feedback. Love that. Appreciate that.
But it's fascinating because I gave this big tech talk on confidence and I do public speaking all over the world.
Right.
And yet, this was one of the first times that I had to memorize my speech versus give it from notes or slides or a script. And I have a background in acting. Musical theater was actually my dream when I was a young person. But I hadn't had to memorize my lines in a long time. And I got really deep in my head. And I had soothed myself before I got to Vancouver for the big TED conference. And then once I got there, everyone was like, "Are you nervous? Are you okay? Are you ready?" And I was like, please don't let your
Thank you for the
anxiety jump off on me.
projection. Yeah.
Exactly. So I quarantined myself. The only times I came out of the hotel room were when I needed food and I wore big headphones because I knew that sitting in my own space and calming myself with my own thoughts and just kind of centering myself on the message that I wanted to make sure got out to the world about confidence, that would refocus me, that would help me align with my intentions and get back on track and not let everyone else's voices get me off the road. So it was giving this talk on confidence that threatened to shake my confidence. And I actually wrote one of the lines from the speech on the mirror in lipstick as I was getting ready so I could think about it. I wore a bright pink suit because I feel like when you look good, you feel good. And I wanted to project as much confidence as I wanted to come through in my words. So ironically, that was the moment where I was doing something brand new and was a little bit scared, but I had to remember my own words and take my own advice.
Oh, I love that. What were the words that you wrote on the mirror? Do you remember?
It was that confidence is the spark before everything that comes next. Because I knew that I had a message that hopefully the world would respond to, and that I deserved to be confident as I got up there to give it.
So speaking of that, how has the response been since you've really started to speak and you're doing so much like activist,
Yeah.
author, podcasts? So tell us, how has it been received?
It's been received incredibly well. We had 1 million views in the first week of its release alone. We're at close to 3 million now. Thank you.
Amazing. Oh my
Yeah.
goodness. You must do a little happy
I
dance
do.
every now
I
and
mean,
then,
I'm just
yeah?
so humbled, right? And it's interesting because I gave the speech right after a scientist who had helped discover a new part of a new galaxy. So I
Really easy
was
to follow.
exactly. I
Very
was a
easy.
little intimidated because
Yeah.
so many people can think that confidence is a soft topic and really not all that
Right, right.
interesting or important. So I'm glad to see that people have responded to it. It's been transcripted and translated into multiple languages, and I get messages from people from Germany and the Middle East and Africa telling me that this is meaningful to them. A lot of women in particular have reached out to say that they listen to this before they head into a big meeting or a big interview to remind them of who they are
Yeah.
and recenter themselves and their confidence and their purpose, which means
Yeah.
so much to me. I hope that it's a gift that keeps on giving. And I feel good knowing that some people may know me from the activism world, some people may know me for the
Yeah.
education world, but no matter where you are or what industry you work in, confidence is still key.
And it's your common denominator. And I love your message around wherever you are in the world, whatever
Yes.
you speak, whatever you do, confidence is that common piece
That's
and
right.
that common thread that can lead to your success.
That's right.
I
Yeah.
love it. So I would love to know a little bit around you, and you've had a lot of success in this
Sure.
space and the confidence piece. You just mentioned author,
Yeah.
activist, etc. So what is next for Brittany? What does she want to do next?
Well, my first book is coming out. I'm in the editing process right now. For the
Amazing.
last few years, I've been curating and collecting for my own personal use the speeches of Black women throughout history. So, abolitionists all the way to people like Yara Shahidi, the young actress and
Yeah.
activist, and lots of people in between, just looking for inspiration, a salve for difficult times, some healing, some insight and wisdom to keep moving forward. It became like a Bible for me. And so I decided I wanted to share that Bible with folks. So
That's
I've
incredible.
curated some of those speeches. I've added some of my own personal essays. It should be out next fall. We're busy editing it right now and deciding on cover art and all those kinds of
Oh
things.
my gosh, the
A
fun
brand new
part.
adventure, but a really, really exciting one.
That must be
Um,
incredible.
yeah,
And
it's
like a
been so
wild
much
way to
fun.
stretch your skills in a different
Completely. Yeah.
space.
And it's interesting. I actually was an English major in college. I thought that writing would be a huge part of my career. And it took a second for it to come back to me. But
Yeah.
especially after the Ferguson uprising, a lot of writing and engagement around the world on issues of justice, on issues of equity and freedom. And this book goes right along with that.
That's incredible. So I know you could probably can't pick a favorite, but I'm so curious, out of all the stories that you've collected and you've heard, is there
Yeah.
like one that rings true for you that you come back to?
So I actually, there are quite a few in there that, as you can imagine, I really,
Yeah.
really love. But there is a speech from a woman named Maria Stewart, who is actually
Okay.
the first Black woman to have written her speeches down and left a record of them for future generations. So you can tell as she's giving this speech, not just about abolition, but about women working together of all backgrounds. You can tell in this speech that she has an eye toward history, that she was hoping that someone like me or someone else would come along centuries later
Yeah.
and pick up her words and think about how conversations about freedom then are just as applicable to conversations about freedom and equity and justice right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's amazing. And when you think about the writing process for you, did you find, because it was, like you said, it had to come back to you, did you find that you were stuck at any point and you had to like re-engage confidence in a new way that was different than an exercise or
Yeah.
a skill you'd been doing?
Completely. I
Yeah.
mean, Valerie Jarrett told me that writing a book is one of the hardest things she's ever done. And I said, you helped run the entire country. And
Yeah.
she still said writing a book is very difficult.
Love the real talk.
Yes,
Yeah,
and it
setting
was
expectations.
100% true. You have to be incredibly honest with yourself when you
Yeah.
write in the long form, right? I had done articles and op-eds, but when you are sitting down to write hundreds of pages and you want to make sure that there's an arc that people can follow, that there are dots that people can connect with.
Yeah.
That is an incredibly difficult process. It certainly exposes you to yourself. You cannot lie. Well, you can, but it wouldn't be a very
Yeah,
good book.
less than I do. Yeah.
Exactly. And I was doing this in between everything else I was doing. So I've been at Teach for America for almost 10 years in multiple
Little
executive
TFA.
seats. Yes.
Yeah.
I've been doing activism work, co-hosting the podcast. Actually, I'm getting married in 3 weeks. So
Ah,
doing all of that. Thank you.
congratulations.
Doing
Oh my
all of that with with the
is.
book has been a trial, but my editor is very patient and just as honest with me as I
Yeah.
hope to be with myself. And that's the kind of team you need to build wherever you are, right? That you can be honest with yourself and that the people around you will
Yes.
hold you accountable to being honest with you as well.
Yes. Oh, I love that. And you
Yeah.
clearly don't stop. You've been on multiple planes and multiple rooms,
Yes.
multiple stages. So tell me a little bit around how do you decompress so that way you can continue to keep that stamina and that confidence regardless of what
Yeah.
life throws at you?
That's a great question. You know, we talk about self-care all the time. It's become
Yes.
almost commercialized at this point, right?
Yeah.
People are selling candles and body washes about self-care.
Yeah.
But for me, this is really about an act of survival. It's about ensuring that I can be my best self so that whatever purpose it has been designed for me, I can carry it out in the best way possible. One
Yeah.
of my favorite thought leaders, Audre Lorde, she said that caring for myself is not self-indulgence, it is self-preservation, and that is an act of political warfare. That the battles that we are fighting to make sure that people experience more equity, that they experience more freedom, that they can thrive in life instead of just survive, those are battles that are going to wear on you because you're fighting against a status quo that is preferred and acceptable by so many
Yeah.
people. And so, what that means is preserving myself and taking care of myself is my responsibility
Yeah.
so that I can go and do that work to the best of my ability. If I'm not well, I can't work well.
I feel like especially with women, like we own a lot
Yeah.
and we forget that piece and we often don't value it the same way.
Yeah.
Have you found that that's a message that you have needed to emphasize or overemphasize at any stage? Like, are we getting better, you think,
I
at
think
it?
we're getting better, but it's because we're having honest conversations. I've led a number of teams before in my career, and one of the things that I had to emphasize to women, especially, is that we've been socialized to carry our burdens and everyone else's.
Yeah.
Do not pick up other people's baggage. Let people be responsible for their own work and
Yes.
do your work, right? I also think, you know, I am a 30 something year old woman, just not getting married. I don't have any kids. And I started to realize that in the workplace, everyone expected me to come early, leave late, never have a social life,
Mm.
and they would make excuses for other people that they wouldn't make for me. And I would say,
Yeah.
hey, equity is about recognizing that everyone has a life outside of these four walls. And not
Yes.
only is that okay, that's a good thing. That makes them better and more energized and more ready when they come to work. So let's respect all of the ways in which people decompress, in which they show up for their families and their loved ones. Let's respect all of the ways in which people live their full lives inside and outside of the office, no matter what the circumstances of their life look like.
I love that. I want to take it back to the workplace.
Yeah.
So, we care very deeply about talent at LinkedIn. Most of the people who are viewing this and who follow you also care about people and talent.
Yes.
And it's a lot more than just themselves. So, if you could give any advice to anyone, regardless of where they are, about how they can really embrace their talents and bring it to the table, what would that be?
I would say that seek permission to be your most confident self, and if you can't find it, then give that permission to yourself. I'll never forget the first time a young woman in the organization that I took over saw me speak in front of a large group of people. She never forgot the orange blazer that I wore, and I just thought it was a cute
Yeah.
blazer. But what it said to her was that I can be exactly who I am, a woman of color, confident in my skills and my experiences, and show up without shame, show up without contorting myself to fit some kind of dominant archetype that says I need to be conservative or I
Yeah.
need to be quiet. That I can show up as myself, and not only am I okay to do that, that I am making this place better
Yeah.
because I am offering my unique skill set, my unique talents, and my unique gifts. So seek that permission, and if you can't find it from someone, give it to yourself.
I love it. Brittany, thank you so much. Your
Thank you.
enthusiasm, your confidence, I feel it through the studio and through the roof. So thank you
Thank
for sharing the
you.
information and inspiration.
Thanks so much.
And stay tuned for more from Talent Connect 2019. Thanks, everyone.